with all this technology and AI, we are only limited by our imagination.
What do you think about businesses that self-implement versus getting an implementer? What are the pros and cons?
Can it be done? 100%. And can you benefit? Definitely. Do you need an implementer? No. We don't tell people what to do. None of us want to hear it anyway. We're all scrappy entrepreneurs. We just share experience, and that's it's just a great way to learn. I think most entrepreneurs don't realize how they're not, for the time, the effort, the stress, the amount of hours they're putting in, are they really getting paid enough?
How does a company set good rocks?
Setting bad rocks initially is a great way to learn how to set good rocks. Everybody's competing for our attention, and how do you advocate for your own attention? Not easy. Gino Wickman said it, if you can't not work for yourself is the only reason you should be an entrepreneur.
Welcome to The Show Goes On. Today I have Adam Pontrelli with me. Did I say that correctly? Pontrelli?
Pontrelli, as good as any non-Italian can say it.
Very nice to meet you, Adam. We had a chance to just catch up right now, and I learned a little bit about you, but I want to hear like your 15, 20-second bio, and then we'll go from there.
Born and raised in LA, come from a family of entrepreneurs, and run several businesses, and been a long member of EO, 14, 15 years, and that led me to EOS. It was just a common thread of excelling businesses, and I dabbled in that for quite some time. And once I hired an implementer and saw firsthand what it can do, it was like, oh, I got to show other founders how to do this. And I became an implementer. And so I've been doing that for 3 years, and hope that was 15 seconds.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. You're right on time. And so how did this all start for you? Like, how did you, I know you just talked about it a little bit, but how did you first get started in entrepreneurship and then find your way to EOS?
Yeah, coming from a family of entrepreneurs, like nobody was a W-9. So it just wasn't in our vernacular. It was just seemed normal. I always thought I would go into business for myself, which is a little bit of a blessing and a curse. So some family members built some pretty big businesses. So of course you have that imposter syndrome. And, that's what really led me to EO. And just repeat the question so I can make sure I stay on track.
Yeah, no, you're good. You were talking about what I asked was what businesses did you get started off in, and how did you find your way to EOS from there?
Got it. Yeah, my main business was in the consumer product space. So I would represent importers and domestic manufacturers, and then ultimately overseas factories. And, I got my start with Costco from 2003 to 2008. We were going through a little bit of a recession. And from there, I didn't want to be a one-trick pony. I had already taken it, US, Canada, Mexico, Korea, Taiwan, Japan, UK. And then I just went after everybody else and told my story as a Costco guy. If anybody knows anything about Costco, they have the lowest markups. So I would knock on Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Kohl's, Lowe's, Amazon, Wayfair, Hayneedle, Bed Bath & Beyond. I would just knock on those doors and I would say, you don't know me, I'm a Costco guy. What does that mean? It means that they have the lowest markups. They expect you to have a low markup, which means everybody in my bag of tricks is an industry leader, because you can't be profitable unless you're near pretty darn good. And so I opened up doors everywhere. And then from 2008 to maybe 2012 or 15, I just completely scaled the business. But I was, on the outside, it looked like I was winning and by every stretch. But on the inside, I was stuck. I mean, I was always on a plane, a train, at a trade show, overseas, visiting a factory, going to visit customers, suppliers. And I quickly saw that a decade, 2 decades were going by, and that's what I was doing, probably because I had something to prove to nobody else but myself, but I didn't really realize that. And I know I'm getting a little deep here, but you and I are EO guys, and that's what we tend to do. And yeah, EOS just kept being talked about. And I read the book no less than a half a dozen times and realized every mistake I ever made in business was in there.
Hmm.
Every decision came by my desk. Anything major, I had to touch it. And, I was stuck. And it wasn't until I hired somebody to really take me from point A to point B without faltering. And as soon as I got that done, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's it! I got to help other founders do that." I was really entrenched in the EO or the entrepreneur community at the time, and yeah, that was it. So actually, today's April 30th, so tomorrow is May, and that makes 3 years that I've been doing this absolutely full time, and I don't even
Really?
run my business anymore. It's got all the right people in the right seats, and it frees me up to do this.
That's incredible. So, okay, before we get more into EOS, I want to hear about EO and the impact that's made on your career because we were talking about that a little bit beforehand. But real quick, what is EO? When did you join it, and how has it helped you?
I joined in 2012, and I guess there's a little bit of pattern there because it probably took me a couple years to hire an implementer. It probably took
Hmm.
me a couple years to join EO. I just never thought I was going to make the time for it. But inevitably, once I joined, I looked back at the end of the first year, and easily I was a better leader, a manager, probably a better like partner and friend too. I was making more money and I was working less hours, which was very attractive to me. And right then and there, they asked me to join the board, and I thought, well, if it was this good being a member, let's double down. Like the mosquito right to the fire.
Yep.
And yeah, I've been on the board for 13 of the last 14 years, and I've only got the chance to lead the chapter of almost 200 entrepreneurs here in Los Angeles. It's been great.
That's got to be some kind of record, like 13 of the last 14 years. That's
Yeah, yeah.
especially for a major city like LA. Like that's got to be
Yeah, and
something.
for something that I thought there's no way I can make the time for this. This is ridiculous. And then the president role, I was looking at the presidents and I was like, how in the world are you running a business and leading the chapter at the same time? And it's
Hmm.
impossible. And every time people would hint and I would say, you're out of your mind. There's no way I'm going to do that. And far and away, it was the best year of my EO life. Far and
Hmm.
away. Such a great year. Learned so much, just great opportunity on that path of leadership.
It's kind of crazy, huh? Like you take on a commitment and you feel like it might take time away, but really when you're around like-minded individuals, in some way it almost frees up time because you learn a better way on how to do things or how to run your business.
You definitely are going to be stretched, but you
Hmm.
get people who have done it before you, like just knocking on your door saying, "Where are you? Has this happened yet?" And you're like, "What?
Hmm.
No, is that going to happen?" They're like, "Oh yeah, that's going to happen." And hey, this would happen to me. And that's one thing great about EO is we try, as you know, we don't tell people what to do.
Hmm.
None of us want to hear it anyway. We're all
Right.
scrappy entrepreneurs. We just share experience, and that's it's just a great way to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. The experience share versus the advice, that's so key. When you get a chance to just share your experience, then you get to choose whether or not you want to receive it, right? I guess that's one of the most core principles of EO.
Yeah, because if you're anything like me and you gave me advice, I might not do it just because you told me.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Or, out of everything you said, you know what? I like 70% of that resonated with me. So I'll take that part of it. I'll
Hmm.
know about the other 30, but I'll take the 70 that resonates with me.
Hmm.
And that's the beauty of it is we can kind of pick and choose whatever works for us in that moment in time. Yeah.
For sure.
That's cool. So I'm guessing eventually you found your way through EOS. Was it through EO or did you just pick up the book or?
It was through EO. When you're around entrepreneurs and
Mhm.
founders, we're all here to share common solutions to common problems. And EOS was a common thread. I think I've said that a couple times.
Yeah.
New members would come into the chapter, new form mates would come into our form, and they'd walk in shaking the book. Have you guys read this? Like all the answers are here.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, okay. when something's repeated over and over again, you kind of take notice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I that happened for me as well. When I joined EO, I also heard about EOS through just being in EO. So it kind of happened organically just while you're there. And you begin to see, okay, everyone's using this technique or this book format. I wonder what it's all about. And then I don't know, when I picked up the book, I realized I was like, wow, this is not fluff. This is actually like practical things that you can use.
Yeah, it's so simple. You're like, oh gosh, like what's going on? What's going on? It's so simple. It's not easy,
Yeah.
but nothing is, and it's a guidebook.
Yeah. And it's like, how was I running the business beforehand without this?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you think about businesses that self-implement versus getting an implementer? What are the pros and cons?
Oh gosh, I have, some guys in our chapter that obviously are friends, and I have seen people self-implement. I don't know what this says about me, but um, we're in conversation. They're like, we've been self-implementing for a couple years. Would love for you to come by and just take a look. And so I said, okay, I'll just do a presentation for you. And I I was shocked how well they had done it.
Hmm.
But inevitably, through that presentation, they're like, oh, like the major dots were connected. So can it be done? 100%. And
Hmm.
can you benefit? Definitely. Do you need an implementer? No. It's like, I don't know if you work out or if you go to the gym, but
Yeah. Every morning, 5:30. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just got back this morning, and certainly, we're going to get benefit from it.
Hmm.
Um, you got yourself a great trainer who's doing it all for you. You're probably going to get there faster, but who knows? You know, in my situation, if I go back into another lifetime, I was a certified trainer. I do know how to work out. I have done over 25, 26 triathlons in my life, had coaching. I know that I won't get the same workout without someone writing my plans. So that's just a personal choice. So the answer to the question is 100% you're going to get benefit either way. It's just
Hmm.
what's going to get you there faster. What are your goals? What's your pain tolerance? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think having another body in the room that you can bounce off of who is not part of the organization, it's like that innocent bystander who sees and hears everything and can provide a perspective that people who are so locked into the business may not be able to provide.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Do you need an implementer? Absolutely not. Did I need one? 100%.
You talked earlier about imposter syndrome. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs go through that, but talk about how you've dealt with imposter syndrome in the past, just, going through business. You've been an entrepreneur for a long time now, so sure, you've been able to work through most of it, but how did it show up early on in your career and how did you work through it?
Matt, I'll tell you, how did I deal with it or how do I deal with it? I think, if that's part of who you are and if that's something that affects you, I think it's just a process. In the beginning, like I mentioned, I've had some relatives that had built some what I thought was normal business, but now I look back and my experience now, they were, as Vern Harnish would call it, a gazelle.
Mhm.
They were the ones that broke through that level where rarely do people get. And growing up, I just I thought I was just playing games. And to be really candid, it's those thoughts that get you at 3 o'clock in the morning that wake you up in the night when that armor of hustle during the day is gone, and that those subconscious feelings come out. I'm probably getting a little too deep, but that's because
Oh,
we're EO
good.
people, and it's just where we go. Um, yeah, I think just time and experience, and really trying to meet that critic, that saboteur inside of us. That's is it the problem, or is it this? What's the problem? What's the solution? Is working hard and hustling the solution or does it fester the problem? I think there's a lot of therapy, and I'm not qualified to jump into any more than I've shared, but it's a process. You just got to realize that everybody starts somewhere and everyone gets help, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And that's another thing that does, and YPO and all the peer networking groups is they normalize your plight,
Hmm.
which is a huge advantage.
Hmm. I love that, the normalizing of the plight, because you begin to realize like we're in this struggle, if you call it. It's a very different struggle than, human beings like 200, 300 years ago. A lot of it's up here. But yeah, especially when you're in forum and you hear the struggles everyone was going through, yeah, it kind of does normalize it and you realize like, huh, I'm not alone.
Yeah, you're informed. How many times have you gone with something, that 5% that is either so good it's braggadocious or the
Mhm.
5% so bad it's embarrassing, and the other 90%, like we're sequestered from talking about that. We want to go to the 5%. So how many times have you gone and shared something that was like, all right, like I got to bring it today,
Yeah.
and you got emotions in you, and then by the end of the day, you're like, yeah, everybody else has gone through this, or at least one person in the room has gone through that. It takes an enormous burden off of you, and maybe it
Mhm.
allows you to think more clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once you externalize it, I think you probably hold less resentment towards yourself too, because you keep it all packed in. That stays on the body, right? But being able to finally express it verbally, you know, not all the time, but most of the time, you feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders then too. And it all
Absolutely.
intersects, right? The personal, the family, the business, all of it kind of interplays off of each other.
I'm so glad you touched on that. Entrepreneurship is not all about, on the surface, it looks about, I want to scale, I want to grow, we want to go here, I'm after this
Hmm.
client. That's like the tip of the iceberg. That's what everybody sees. But what's underneath the iceberg, that other 90% is what's going on at home? Where am I struggling? Like, what's the personal challenge here? What's keeping me up in the middle of the night? That's the real heart of entrepreneurship that people don't recognize, or at least non-entrepreneurs don't fully see.
Hmm. The moments that keep you up at night.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is a lonely endeavor. At least it was for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because there comes a moment when you're looking around at your entire team, and then I don't know. I'm just throwing out examples. Maybe there's a legal thing going on, or some type of trademark thing, financing that you realize, like, wow, there's no one else in the business I can really hand this off to. Like, I get the value of being able to delegate, and I think that works well operationally. And I'm just riffing over here, but like I feel like there's certain things in the business that only entrepreneurs can really take care of, and it's in those moments where you realize, like, oh crap, I'm all alone. Like, there's no one who can really help me out with this right now. Um, and that's where I think the value of an organization like EO or YPO comes into play, because then you realize, okay, there is a network of folks that I can rely on that can help guide me through this treacherous situation that I have never seen in my life. There's no playbook or template that I can go off of.
100%, 100%. And I get some entrepreneurs join and they think, I don't really have a lot to add, but I certainly have a lot to take out of it. And everybody has something to add.
Hmm.
Everyone has some experience, and they're going to find somebody else that's in a spot that you're going to share, and that's going to make a difference in their life.
Hmm. Yeah, well said. So you've been in EO now for, you said 15 years now?
In August it'll make 14 or 15 years, probably somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I joined in 2012, so yeah, it'll make 14 years.
okay. That's
My math is
incredible.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, 14 for sure. Uh, what what changes have you seen in yourself from like the time you first started through the middle of that and through right now? I'm just curious how your journey's been, because I've been doing it for 7 years. So
Hmm.
about half the time that you've been doing it for. So I'm just curious, like, what changes have you seen in yourself along the way?
Yeah, what a great organization that you get these people that join the organization and they just stay,
Hmm.
because they get benefit year after year. Certainly I'll go the dichotomy. Certainly more confidence and also more humility.
Yeah. Confidence and humility.
Yeah. Two good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly more confidence because I've seen it play out over and over again. I've gone through more iterations, more cycles, and then I've also borne witness to others and their cycles and their challenges.
Hmm.
So, and other successes too. There are some people that come in and play leapfrog, and they're in and they're out, and like, what just happened to that guy? Had his 9-figure exit, like, and is now buying airplanes and whatnot. You're like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. That definitely happens along the way. And I think those moments can also be very humbling too. I don't know. The feeling I've had in the past, like couple years, has been like, okay, let's not make ourselves feel that important here, right? Like we're all just trying to run a business at the end of
yeah,
the day. And so sometimes we can place so much self-importance on what we're doing. And then you realize you look out at your, all your entrepreneur friends and realize like everyone's going through that same struggle, right? And so, um,
yeah, it's a privilege and it's a responsibility. It's not all about how much more money can we make
mhm.
because we're employing people, we're affecting their lives, their family lives. We're either producing a product or a service, so hopefully we're doing something that's good for the community or humanity, whatever it is. There's so much to it.
Yeah, and like money's part of it, but I feel like it's a lot of it's like the journey, the climb, and the relationships you make along the way.
Yeah, I think most entrepreneurs don't realize how they're not get for the time, the effort, the stress,
Hmm.
the amount of hours they're putting in, are they really getting paid enough?
Yeah, you're right. Are you saying they should be paid more?
In some cases, I think they're not being properly compensated for the amount of time, effort that they put in, how much of their life they're dedicating to that cause. I think it's
Hmm.
worth thinking about.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hear that, and I also think like, okay, there are definitely years where it's struggling, and then there's some years where things can just take off. Um, and it's no doing of your own. Of course, right place, right time, preparation meets opportunity, all that. But sometimes the market just speaks and you sit back and you're like, wow, okay, this whole thing is running now.
Yeah. Yeah. you know, and I mentioned coming from a family of entrepreneurs. I still hear my grandfather's voice, who stayed with us 105 years. We just lost him
Wow.
on New Year's Eve, 105, and he was a fighter all the way to the end. I never forget all the things that I heard from when I was a young age. Like, Adam, it's about perseverance. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then I have another cousin of mine, and I remember in my 30s, he said to me, you can make generate most of your life's revenue in a 5 to 10 year span. You just don't know when it's going to happen. And
Hmm.
like, just little comments like that along the way put things into perspective.
Wow. Yeah.
Doesn't make you think, right?
Yeah, yeah, it really does make you think. I mean, and I'm just 105. That's incredible, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry for your loss, but 105, that's
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
He was a Titan.
Yeah. So you said you come from a family of entrepreneurs. Your grandfather was an entrepreneur as well, and assuming your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. What types of businesses do they do? I'm just curious.
Um, Gosh, we're talking about textile industry, we're talking about the furniture industry, we're talking about the scrap metal industry.
And I'm sure you just got like a lot of exposure through it along the way. Did it like almost like normalize entrepreneurship for you while you were growing?
Well, what did normalize for me was you're up early,
Hmm.
you are working hard, you're working long hours, you're coming home late and you're tired and you have other responsibilities and you step up to the plate. So I recognize that no matter how hard the day is, and there are days when you are depleted when you come home, you are just absolutely flat. And you're like, I don't know how long I can keep this up. And then the next morning, the selective amnesia kicks in and you just get up and do it all again. How many times has that happened to you?
All the time.
And I think that's one of the great things that happened in growing up in a family is that that was normal. I thought, well, that's what we do. Like there was not a question. But on the flip side, I alluded to it also, the years of like, how come I'm not where they are?
Hmm.
Like that was a struggle too.
Yeah. I'm not where they are in terms of like success or,
Oh yeah, success, lifestyle,
hmm,
the
yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's easy, right? Like we can, like I always like to go by the quote, right? A healthy man wants 1,000 things. A sick man only wants one thing. And when
Beautiful.
things are rolling, you're just like, oh man, what about that? What about that? Um, it's tough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's big for anyone who's an entrepreneur. If you've had the example of entrepreneurship shaped in you at a young age, it in a sense it makes it less daunting. I also come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad did like dry cleaners, gas stations, insurance, and so there's a lot of things he did along the way. And I had always promised myself I wasn't going to be an entrepreneur because I was like, oh, this looks very grueling and hard, and I kind of want the stability of something where I know what I'm getting. And then I got some of that stability in my first job. Actually, it was in LA. And then I realized like, oh, this is not for me. I think I'm an entrepreneur through and through.
I was thinking about this as we've been talking. Gino Wickman said it in such a powerful way that I remember it. He said, if you, and I apologize, Gino, I don't know if you said it exactly this way. He said, if you can't not work for yourself is the only reason you should be an entrepreneur. It's way harder.
Yeah.
Like if you have no other choice, like working for someone else's sounds like the worst thing you can possibly do. If that's not the case, and that's not to say that I wouldn't want to be like part of or join a really successful team. And my analogy there is like you go to college and you get some schlumpy like apartment or a dorm or something like that. You have your experience. But if you get together with like four of your best buds and you guys all share like drive and values and things like that, and you rent this killer house and you go through all few years of university and you have this great experience, like that's a fun way to go.
Yeah.
Like I'm attracted to being a part of a great team,
Hmm.
but I've always been an entrepreneur. So I get that. I get that.
Yeah, what you just described, I love that analogy, by the way. I've never heard that. It almost that sounds like a company, right? A group of people that you're around and you like being around each other most of the time and you share some of the same core values. And yeah, you're going at it together and it feels a lot better along the way. Those are some of the moments that you have where you realize like, okay, this is not so lonely. Like I have a team around me that I actually genuinely like being around.
Yeah, and hopefully with that, look, like, if you got together with four of your best buds and you went through college and you had this killer house, you're having great parties or whatever it is you're doing. You're really enriching that experience in those four years.
Yeah,
Unless you're really creative and making a dorm room a great experience. Listen, that's a rite of passage.
for sure. Yeah, it is. So have you always been from the LA area? You're born there, grew up there?
Born here, raised my grandfather on my father's side came to LA in 1919.
Wow.
Grandfather on my mother's side came here late 40s, early 50s. I've lived in other places in other countries, but it's always been temporary. I mean, LA's been home. My family's here.
Hmm. That's cool. So you're a California guy through and through.
I'm a SoCal kid. That's
Nice.
right.
Nice. Where else have you been in the world?
Middle East, Asia, Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any of those places where you settled down for a little bit and then came back to California?
I lived in Japan for a little bit. I lived in Europe for a little bit. I lived in Israel for a little bit.
Oh wow.
I spent
Okay.
some time on a boat in the Red Sea
Wow.
for a summer, you know, exploring a little bit after college.
Yeah. That's really great that you did that. I feel like more and more people should take advantage of that year after college. A lot of times right after college, and this was me, you feel the need to step into the workforce immediately because you wanna make something of yourself. And then only to look back and realize like, oh, no one really cares. Like take that gap year and just go enjoy yourself and have some of those
Yeah.
experiences.
The conversations you have with people when you get out of your world are very illuminating.
Hmm.
I still remember some of them. You're on your own and you're traveling around and you're meeting people, and you're meeting people that have such a diverse upbringing and background and perspective of the world. It's important. I mean, there are things that I really fell in love with the Japanese culture that are still part of my life.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna ask you how is Japan? I've never been there, but heard good things. But what was your experience like?
It's a really special place. Of all the, I don't know how many countries I've been to, but I think it's a really special place. If you think back, what we know as Americans is a Judeo-Christian value system or upbringing.
Hmm.
And they're on a whole different thing over there. I mean, it's not newer than ours.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just really interesting. In Japan, in particular, I don't want to turn this into a tourist talk, but it's very safe. It's very clean. They're big into nature, and they have one of the blue zones over there, and it's just it's very diverse. It's very beautiful. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it sounds like a great place. Toggling back to EOS, I want to ask you some EOS questions too, because the fundamentals and the principles of that are very interesting and intriguing to me. Um, this is a broad question, and I hope to break it down a little bit more with you. How does a company set good rocks? Because it feels like
Mm,
the most important thing that comes out of the quarterly is, hey, what are the rocks that we came away with? And if
yeah.
those feel kind of meh, sometimes the quarterly can feel flat. So, how do you help guide teams towards making really good rocks?
What a great question. What a great question. So I'll be succinct. Setting bad rocks initially is a great way to learn how to set good rocks because you get to the end of the quarter and we're all striving for 80% success ratio, and so many things happen. One, the first time you set them, no one ever hits an 80%, right? 50% maybe
Hmm.
of done versus not done. But then don't shortchange yourself and ask, what did we learn? That's the most valuable time. What did we learn? And things come out. Well, we weren't really clear. What often happens is we were overzealous, and that just sets us up. That turns us into January every year where we set a workout goal, and by March we're depressed,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But it's a really important time setting bad rocks, learning from them, beautiful. Setting the right rocks, a couple of tips I can provide. One, and they alleviate some of those things which I hope everybody does get a chance to learn when they set not the greatest rocks. One, you got to understand what is the intent of the rock. I think oftentimes people don't put time into that. And then what does done look like? So we're crystal clear. Did we cross the finish line or did we not cross the finish line?
Hmm.
And then what also helps is breaking down the milestones. So let's say we want to get to wherever we want to get to. What are the things that must be done along the way? And then if you're really good at it, by when? So when you're in your weekly meetings with your leadership team and we go around the room and we say, this rock, this rock, this rock, am I on track or off track? It is 100% clear you are committing that it's going to get done when everybody can see the milestones are also getting ticked off. No 2 weeks before your quarterly and I'm off track all of a sudden. Like
Hmm.
we want to avoid that too. So when you're setting rocks, you will have had the opportunity to answer all 8 questions on your VTO or your vision traction organizer. We know where we're going. We know who we are. We know how we're going to get there. We know what we're committed to being best in the world at. We know what it's going to look like 3 years from now, which helps us determine what's the most important things we're going to get done in a year from now. That helps us set the right rocks. So, what's the intention of the rock? We want to feel like we're heading into that year and we're achieving those great priorities, those 3 to 7, not 37 priorities for the year. And if we're hitting the right rocks, then we are effectively predicting the long-term future of the business.
Yeah.
Tried to be succinct, but you got one of my superpowers. I love helping people set great rocks.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I love what you said about the milestones. I'm guilty of that. Our company sets, I feel like we set pretty good rocks, but we don't really subscribe to the milestones. And I feel like that can quickly help smoke out whether a rock is truly on track or off track, rather than scrambling towards the end of the quarter, right? If you got the milestones set up, then you're making meaningful progress towards the rock. And if something's off strategically, you can figure it out and smoke that out a lot sooner then.
We're humans. We are wired to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
And if someone's not passionate about what you're doing, then you're going to take shortcuts, and ultimately we're shortchanging ourselves. Like the one who's in charge of the scorecard has to be really passionate about it. It's hard work, but it's ultimately saves a ton of time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really does. And then zooming out to the vision, right? You talked about the VTO. During your quarterly meetings, are you a fan of going through and making edits to the VTO during the quarterly, or is that reserved just for the annual?
It depends on the team. It depends on the size of the team. It depends on, I usually do what's best for the team or assert my recommendations. If it's a well-oiled machine, I'm smoking out issues. They're going on the issues list. If they're priorities when we get to the issues list in the day, then we're going to solve them right there in that day. But it's like climbing the tree. If you're cutting a road through the forest and you're climbing, you got to climb the tree every quarter to make sure you're going from point A to point B without zigzagging all around. So you're smoking out issues. You got to make sure everybody's still on the same page with every one of those answers. That's important.
Yeah, agreed. Um, okay, so looking ahead, one of the things that I'm wondering about is just taking into account everything going on with entrepreneurship. You got a war over here, supply chain, oil, you got AI, all that going on. Combining it all together, what do you feel like entrepreneurs should be paying attention to?
Their health,
Yeah.
their mental health, their family health. I'm not. I'm like I'm changing that very slowly. I'm not a social media person, but I've been trying to post a little bit about some of my experiences on LinkedIn. And I just wrote a post last week about really paying attention to, we're all spinning plates.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what we're doing. We're spinning plates. We're keeping them all in the air. Paying attention to the ones that are not made of rubber.
Hmm.
It's important.
Yeah. Paying
Some of
attention
them
to ones
don't.
that are
Some
not
of them
made of
don't.
rubber. What do you mean by that?
Yes, some of them aren't going to bounce,
Mm, okay.
and most of them are.
Hmm.
Most of them will bounce if they fall,
Yeah.
but some of them will not.
Yeah.
So no, in advance, it's better to keep something spinning than you know come back to it after the fact and know that you either got a major repair job and it'll never be the way it was, or and some plates aren't meant to spin forever. So I'm getting a little philosophical, but I think that's help my point is taken.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get what you're saying. Um, What excites you about the future right now? What do you see out there and you're like, okay, this could be pretty cool.
Yeah, there's so much talk about AI. You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
And just being open to it is exciting to me.
Hmm.
Really exciting. Um, I remember when, the internet first came around, and then domain names came and you can buy a domain name. And I was like, oh, well, everyone's going to have a domain, like every business. And, the phone book's going to be gone and all this stuff. I think where we are is 10 times, 100 times bigger and more interesting how radically things are going to change. So just being open and excited to that is, yeah, it gets me really interested in what the future holds for all of us.
Hmm. What's your outsized prediction? Like what's one thing where you're like, oh, okay, I feel like this is definitely going to happen. It doesn't exist right now, but it's probably going to happen.
It's such a great question because with all this technology and AI, we are only limited by our imagination.
Hmm.
So you just asked me, what am I imagining? And I'm not sure I have a great answer. I think taking the time to sit and think about what's possible is exciting.
Hmm.
As far as a prediction, I don't know. Bill Gates said there's going to be a desktop on every person's desk of a personal computer. And okay, I think Elon Musk is saying every home or every human's going to have more than one, what do you call it, a robot? Is there a better name for it?
I
Yeah,
feel like it's
whatever it
robot.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine what that's going to look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very futuristic. Yeah.
I haven't really thought about that. Or when personal aviation, we're going to be like the Jetsons.
Hmm.
I haven't really spent the time. But if you look in the rear view mirror and you thought, like, when did a smartphone come out versus a flip phone versus those big carrying the suitcase and cell phones come out, stuff's starting to advance really quickly. So I can't answer your question eloquently. So sorry about that one,
Oh,
but
you're
I'm
okay.
sharing some of my thoughts.
Ah, you're good. You're good. It is very exciting, and I think the coolest part is that we really do have to let our imaginations run wild and sit with it and give it some time and think about I can't even use the past as reference because we're only limited by that, what we know. But when we let it run free, um, so much more is possible.
Yeah, you said it. It's allowing ourselves time to think and imagine
Hmm.
without being, I mean, that's kind of the danger going on right now is we are glued to a device
Hmm. Yep.
like almost all the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And everybody's competing for our attention. And how do you advocate for your own attention?
Right.
Not easy.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Well said. And I want to end with a couple of rapid fire questions before we sign off. So, favorite book that you've read?
Oh gosh. That's a tough one because I'm not a big reader. Um, I'm going to go with an old classic and just say Atlas Shrugged because it took me
Okay.
3 years to read it.
I mean, it's a thick book. It's huge. I haven't even read it. I bought it one time because like Mark Cuban talked about it, and then I never read it. So
Yeah, I'll just pull that one off. Being
nice.
in EO, we get a lot of books
Yeah,
and a lot of them are great. And I've joined some book clubs and, definitely read my chapter and presented on it. But yeah, I'm going to go with the classic.
nice. Favorite city to travel to?
Ooh, um, Kyoto.
Okay, cool. Nice. Oh, it's Japan.
Yeah,
You've inspired me to take a vacation there now. So
yeah, no, it's a great place.
yeah. And then your favorite TV show?
Yeah, not a big TV guy also. Sorry. Yeah,
How about
I'm
movie?
a,
Could try a movie.
jeez. Yeah, I don't know. I don't sit and watch the box or can't remember the last time I went to a movie. Sorry to stump you on that one.
Oh, you're okay.
Um, Probably my favorite movies from when I was a kid are probably not appropriate anymore.
An old classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll generalize. I love things that make me feel a certain I love good dramas that really enact emotions. Love a great comedy if I'm in the mood.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Don't have a great answer to those. Apologize, and I don't mean to like shut you down. You got any more for me?
No, no worries. Hmm, we said favorite city, favorite TV show, favorite book, favorite cuisine. Let's do that one. That's
Oh,
easy.
it's so funny. I was thinking. I wonder if he'll just ask me what my favorite food is. Yeah, maybe it's a Mediterranean diet. I like lean protein and veggies, and I don't know, maybe I was influenced by Japan, but I like rice.
Nice. Yeah,
I
rice
also
is
like
good.
potatoes. Yeah, I'm not afraid of my carbs.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining today. It was really nice to meet you. Before we sign off, any final takeaways for our guest?
Yeah, I'm not on podcasts very often, and I really enjoyed this and really enjoyed getting a chance to know you, and I hope I get to meet you in person
Yeah.
um, in the near future.
Likewise. And where can everyone find you online?
Uh, AdamPontrelli.com.
Everyone's got a domain.
You know what? I just put this together with AI in 45 minutes
Mhm.
last week. So shoot me an email. Let me know what needs to be fixed.
Yeah. See, that's awesome. That's the power of AI, right? Being able to put
Yeah,
a
I'm
website
literally
together that quickly.
I've probably lamented on that for 2 years and then just like found a tool and got it up there.
Yeah. Love
It was
that.
amazing.
Thanks so much, Adam. Appreciate your time. Okay.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.